Since their introduction in the early 20th century, aircraft carriers have continued to be a powerful and important tool within modern warfare. Their construction and maintenance is insanely expensive, but in return, they provide a unique opportunity to maintain a country's air power and naval forces. It's perhaps no secret that the most advanced U.S. Navy aircraft carrier is the USS Gerald R. Ford, or CVN-78. This ship became the first in its class, defining the future of a new generation of American aircraft carriers. It is 10 times the size of its distant ancestor, USS Langley, or CV-1, and is literally filled to the brim with advanced technological solutions worthy of a 21st century flagship military vessel. At the same time, its price of more than $13 billion raised the requirements for the ship to an extremely high level, forcing experts to react more sharply to all the problematic moments during its construction, a displacement of 100,000 tons, which makes the Ford the champion amongst all warships ever built, as well as the dimensions of this giant, are impressive even on paper. With a length of 1,106 feet, 256 feet in width, a height of 250 feet, and a flight deck that can accommodate up to 90 aircraft, this vessel can both strike fear into the hearts of enemies and give hope to allies. The two most publicized ship technologies are the EMALS, or Electromagnetic Aircraft Launch System, a new electromagnetic aircraft launch system that has replaced traditional steam catapults, and AAG, or Advanced Arresting Gear. EMOs use a stored kinetic energy and solid-state electrical energy conversion to propel the aircraft on rails and away from the carrier with a linear induction motor instead of a steam piston like the USS Nimitz class. The system accelerates the aircraft more smoothly, reducing the load on not only its A-frame but also on the pilots, requiring less maintenance while being able to launch even heavier aircraft than its steam engine predecessors. Additionally, the system reduces the ship's need for fresh water and energy-intensive desalination, and also eliminates the need for steam generation and storage, freeing up a significant amount of space below deck. The AAG, in turn, replaced the Mk7 brake mechanism and uses hydraulics to slow down and stop the landing aircraft. Rotary engines, which use simple energy-absorbing water turbines or twisters coupled to a large induction motor, provide precise control of drag forces and are suitable for a wider range of aircraft, including U's. And let's not forget about the 11 advanced weapons elevators, or these make it possible to minimize the time needed to move the weapons from their place of storage and assembly to aircraft standing on the takeoff deck. Ammunition will be lifted to a centralized re-equipment site using heavy-duty elevators that employ linear motors. The elevators themselves, however, are positioned so that ammunition doesn't have to cross any aircraft traffic areas, thereby reducing traffic problems in the hangars and on the flight deck. In other words, rearmament of aircraft can now be completed in minutes instead of hours. Large output power is a main component behind the integrated warfare system. Therefore, engineers have done the impossible to ensure that even more innovative technologies are integrated into the aircraft carrier for the foreseeable future. In the meantime, the ship's existing systems use only half the capacity of its 2 Bechtel A-1B nuclear reactors, capable of providing several countries with energy for a year at once: Monaco, Liechtenstein, Andorra, and San Marino. The USS Navy expect the USS Board class to cruise the oceans and seas until 2105, and the ship's future armament has already included free electron-directed energy laser weapons, electrical armor, and advanced tracking systems. Although it doesn't have more than a dozen aircraft carriers like the United States does, the French fleet can also boast of its flagship Charles de Gaulle R-91, which received its name in the honor of the President and General of France, Charles de Gaulle. It's funny that the ship could get a completely different name. In February of 1986, when the contract for the construction of an aircraft carrier was signed, the Ministry of Defense proposed that Charles de Gaulle option, but the then President of France, François Mitterrand, felt that on the eve of the 1988 elections, it would have been seen as flirting with the Gaullist party, so he decided to change it to Richelieu. However, in the end, in 1989, Gaullist Prime Minister Jacques Chirac nevertheless convinced the president that de Gaulle's name was more suitable for a symbol of France's greatness. This giant, costing more than $3.3 billion, is the 10th aircraft carrier built by France, the first French nuclear-powered surface ship, and the only non-US Navy nuclear-powered aircraft carrier completed. It was built by the Brest Naval Shipyard DCN, or the Direction to Constructions Navals in the province of Brittany, and commissioned in 2001, replacing 2 vintage Clemenceau-class aircraft carriers, the Clemenceau R-98 and Fox R-99. The ship has a length of 858 feet, a flight deck width of 207 feet, a height of 218 feet, and a very impressive displacement of 42,500 tons at full load. Such dimensions allow the French aircraft carrier to accommodate up to 40 aircraft, including 30 Dassault rifle and multirole fighters, E-2C Hawkeye tactical AWACS aircraft, as well as S-3 65F Dolphin Pedro, EC-725 Caracol, and S-532 Cougar helicopters. The heart of the systems are two Arriva K-15 PWR or pressurized water reactors nuclear water reactors. Charles de Gaulle uses cattle bar or catapult-assisted takeoff but arrested recovery to launch planes using a catapult and land on a ship using safety lines. The ship is equipped with two 246-foot C-13 free-steam catapults. A shortened version of the catapult system found on the U.S. Nimitz-class aircraft carriers, one catapult in the bow and another in the forward part of the landing area. The fangs of the aircraft carrier are four Silver 8-element launchers to accommodate Mdar Astra 15 anti-aircraft missile systems and two Sectors 6-element launchers with short-range Mistral missiles, and for self-defense at close range, the ship is equipped with 8 20mm Yacht 20 F2 cannons. In November of 2001, France sent Charles de Gaulle to the Indian Ocean to support Operation Enduring Freedom against Taliban-controlled Afghanistan. Then there were 16 to Saltbridge superintended carrier-based biters, the Dassault Rafale Lam fighters, one E-2C Hawkeye AWACS, and several helicopters that made 770 sorties on board. Nowadays, due to the war on Ukraine set on by Russia, the French aircraft carrier and its air wing have begun to support NATO's efforts to increase vigilance in the Black Sea as well as the defense of France and the European continent. Up until the 2000s, the French fleet sought to create two aircraft carriers so that one of them would always be in working order if the second was forced to be absent for repairs. To this end, in cooperation with the UK, a project was developed for the notorious aircraft carrier Queen Elizabeth, suitable for construction in France as an aircraft carrier Part 2 or Port Avions 2, and although France immediately preferred a nuclear power plant, the project involved the installation of conventional engines to meet the requirements of the British Royal Navy. This was perhaps one of the many reasons why the 2013 French Defense White Paper cancelled plans for a second aircraft carrier. In 2020, President Macron announced the construction of a new generation aircraft carrier PNG or Port Avions du Nouvelle Generation, which will start in 2025. It'll have a displacement of about 75,000 tons and the ability to accommodate 32 of the latest fighters. In 2038, it's set to replace Charles de Gaulle, sending it to a well-earned retirement. Aircraft carriers are one of the most important elements within the Chinese Navy's growing ambitions. Until recently, China's aircraft carrier fleet consisted of the Type 001 Liaoning, also known as a Varyag, a vessel bought from Ukraine in 1998 for $30 million, and Type 002 Shandong, an in-house design successfully commissioned in the winter of 2019. In June 2022, they were joined by a new Chinese development, the Type 003 Fujian aircraft carrier. The ship is remarkable at least in that it is the first ship built outside the United States that could be classified as a supercarrier like the USS Nimitz and even the USS Ford. In addition to the Ford, however, all modern American aircraft carriers, like most similar U.S. ships from the Second World War, are based on the previously mentioned Katabar system. The Chinese aircraft carriers, partially recreated according to the design of the Soviet ships, use a stow bar or short takeoff barrier arrested recovery system, which launches aircraft from a springboard and prevents them from using cables as in Katabar. The aircraft carrier uses a principle similar to the U.S. Ford's emails, using steam turbines and electromagnetic catapults. The transition to such catapults, among other things, explains the increase in the size of the vessel in comparison with its predecessors. The Type 003 fully loaded displacement is over 80,000 tons at 1,037 feet long and 255 feet wide. As for the propulsion system, its structure is not yet very clear. Chinese military observer Song Zhongping stated that the system has an integrated electric propulsion or IEP. Otherwise, the operational characteristics of the Chinese ship, and even more so its price, remain a mystery, but the assumptions about the air wing are clearer. Most likely, it will include 40 Shenyang FC-31 Gerfalcon 5th-generation fighters, which are China's answer to the Lockheed Martin F-35 Lightning II, and at least one Zion KJ-600 AWACS turboprop aircraft. Based on the technologies and systems installed on Fujian, the PRC could conduct its first sea trials as early as March 2023, after which it would begin an approximately 18-month period of active testing, putting its new offspring into operation by October 2024. In Asia, of course, the carrier race is in full swing. China had prepared the Type 003 and is almost certainly already working on its nuclear successor. India also completed work on its first domestic aircraft carrier. And even Japan renewed its figure since World War II to allow its naval forces to finally have an aircraft carrier. South Korea may soon join this club with its first Chevron aircraft carrier project, also known as the LPX-2. This ship is expected to be a logical continuation of the Doko-class landing craft commissioned by Seoul in 2007 and 2021. But unlike Dokdo, which prioritized amphibious capabilities, the Chevron will be designed for fixed-wing and rotary-wing operations. The aircraft carrier will displace about 45,000 tons at full load and measure 850 feet long and 200 feet wide to accommodate up to 20 of the latest oval F-35B fighters. The CBX will not have an equipped landing craft deck. Instead, the interior space will be dedicated to aircraft storage and maintenance, and the takeoff deck will be axial rather than ski jump. This makes it related to such U.S. Navy landing craft as the Tawara, Wasp, and America. This deck layout is simply made for the countries purchase American F-35B fighters, since they have no need for a safety cable when landing and can use the same landing site as carrier-based helicopters due to the option for vertical takeoff and landing. In this regard, engineers paid special attention to the deck's resistance to high temperatures rather than its resistance to deformation. At the same time, if the aircraft carrier will be working with Korean fighters like the KF-21, which do not have stowable features, then the specialists will have to equip the deck with additional brake cables. Additionally, the South Korean Chevron may become one of the few aircraft carriers with two islands. The British Defence Corporation Babcock International is supporting the Korean program, which is a possible explanation for the choice of the two-island design. After all, Babcock previously led the development of the Queen Elizabeth-class program for the Royal Navy. The estimated price of the aircraft carrier looks extremely optimistic, stopping at $1.83 billion. But let's not forget about 20 F-35BS, which will cost Seoul about $2.7 billion. And although many, including South Korean experts, are sure that such an aircraft carrier will only become a money-eating behemoth for the country, taking into account their inadequate northern neighbor, North Korea, and the ambitions of the PRC, the region will definitely not interfere given the additional protection. Which of today's aircraft carriers impressed you the most and why? Let us know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell for more content like today's. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.